Hello everyone, Deb Floros, guest designer for Rings and Things. These natural druzy agate rounds are so beautiful. They have a matte finish and they all look a little bit different. I want to combine them with some Dakota Stones Labradorite 8mm large hole beads. They just add a little bit of a contrast, a little bit of a darker vibe. And I'm going to knot a bracelet here. I'm using number 8 Griffin Natural Silk to do my knotting. You can decide what size silk you'd like to use. Maybe you want to go a little bit smaller. Maybe you want to go a little bit chunkier. I think the 8 is really nice here. I used kind of a pale pink color, but you could use another neutral or even a bold bright color if you like. Now I'm using a beading awl and I'm using the needle that's attached to the Griffin silk to actually string on my beads. And I'm using 2 packages of the silk. And I'm knotting on 3 beads on each strand of the silk. And what I'm going to do here is tie a knot at either end of the 2 strands. So I'm attaching the 2 together and creating a knot at both sides of these little sections of knotted beads. I use my beading awl to get that knot close to where I want it to be, and then I actually just use my fingernails to pull it down to where I want it exactly and then pull tight. Now I'm using the full length of the cord here because I wasn't sure how much I was going to need. That's always the challenge with these kinds of knotting projects. So it's a lot of pulling that silk through. The next step after you get those sections of 3 beads cinched up is you're going to add a large hole bead. Now, I probably didn't need a large hole bead because I think those 2 cords could have fit pretty well through a smaller bead, but I feel more comfortable that I did. Certainly, if you use a larger silk, you would definitely want a large hole bead. Now, I'm just repeating the process. I'm doing 3 beads on each strand of my silk. And look at the variation of the color of those agates. I think it just looks so fun with that darker vibe labradorite in the middle there. So the pattern is just 3 beads on each cord, then tie a knot, put on a large hole bead, tie another knot, then add 3 more beads. And you'll want to do this in such a way that the bracelet is going to fit you and it has the number of sections of beads that work for your wrist size. So you may want to modify your design, maybe add 3 large hole beads sort of at the center or the focal of the bracelet. So just measure out what you think once you get started, and you'll decide kind of how many sections you need. I used 5 sections of the 3 and 3 beads, and then I measured out and tested on my wrist. And oh my gosh, the movement with this silk is so fun. Now these little swirly charms I thought were so cute. I thought they would be fun as a little bit of an accent. So I added 2 to one strand, and I had a third, so I just added the third to the other strand, and I knotted them on just like the beads. Then I've got a closed jump ring, and I'm going to use this for one side of my closure. You could actually use a larger one if you'd like. I kind of wanted to go small because of those little charms there. And I just tie it on with a knot, and then I sort of tie around the base. Oh, and get your beads out of the way before you start this process. I always manage to spill them. So I'm tying around that knot to create a bit of a chunky knot around that one side of the closure. And so I've got about 3 knots here, 1 to secure the ring, 1 around one side and 1 around the other. And then I cinch that silk up nicely. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, but I do need to attach my lobster claw to a jump ring. So I'm using an open jump ring here, and I'm just doing the same thing. I'm tying on that jump ring with the lobster on it. I'm cinching that down to where I want it to be with my awl. And then I'm going to make sure that's nice and tight, and then pull my cords around to tie a knot on one side and then tie a knot on the other. So I've got about 3 knots, and I've got a bit of a chunky look of knots there at my end. I kind of like the way that that looks as sort of a finishing touch. I pull really tight, and then I'm going to protect my work surface with a piece of cardboard, and we're going to use some GS Hypo Cement to drop a few dots onto our knots and make sure that they're completely secure. Once you've done that, you'll want to let this dry for a little bit. Read the package, at least an hour or so is what I do. Then you can trim off your ends, and now you've got a really beautiful, nice, slinky knotted bracelet. You can find everything to make this fun bracelet at ringsandthings.com. Thank you so much for watching.